Who is the best in Berlin? BKG has been the king in Europe, but can he keep the crown for another year? A new generation is on the rise and on track for the CrossFit Games. We preview the Men's Europe Semifinal next. Hi, everybody. Welcome inside the Talking Elite Fitness Studios. I'm Sean Woodland with Tommy Marquez as we break down the men's side of the Europe Semifinal. And this is an interesting field because there is potential here to have a little bit of a changing of the guard.
Yeah, you look at 11 spots up for grabs on the men's side. You have 2 multi-year vets that are out this season or didn't qualify. You have 7 men in the field with only 1 year of games experience. And then you factor in the fact that half of the top 10 in quarterfinals was rookies. I think there's a great opportunity to see some upsets and even some new faces once everything shakes out.
The Europe semifinal will be held the final weekend of semifinal action. It is one of the semifinals that is run and operated by CrossFit, June 1st through the 4th in Berlin, Germany. 11 men, 11 women, and 10 teams moving on from this semifinal to the CrossFit Games. So let's start with a guy that we often overlook. He is going for his 10th trip to the CrossFit Games. That's Bjorn Carlguminson. Still has to be the favorite here, doesn't he?
Yeah, the short answer is yes, he's the man to beat. But I think there's also a case to be made if certain trends that started last year continue, that we could start to see that shift a little bit. But on top of those 10 consecutive CrossFit Games appearances that he's shooting for, he'll also be going for a 9th consecutive top 10 finish at the Games. And he has 5 top 5 finishes at the Games as well. Here's what makes him so good. There just isn't anything that he's bad at. And that's what has allowed him to stay at the top. You look at since 2015 when he broke into the podium and into the top 10, on 100+ events at the CrossFit Games, he only has two bottom 10 finishes. That means no matter what you throw BKG's way, he's going to find a way to be successful. And that's what you want from a top contender.
That is mind-blowing.
It's crazy
when you think about that kind of consistency over his career. But there are a couple of veterans right behind him as far as when you talk about who could be the favorites, who could push him a little bit here.
Yeah, and I think it'll be on an event-to-event basis, but one of those people pushing him was part of that 2014 rookie class that he went into the Games with, and that's Jona Koski. Jona has been at the top of the sport for now a decade coming into this season, but you have to look at what separates Jona as an athlete. Tremendous aerobic capacity, proficiency on the machines, and all-around gymnastics and work with his body weight. The first 2 events for semifinals, you're looking at a ton of machine work, a ton of body weight work, and a lot of skills, and those are things that Jona excels at. Now for him, day 2 is going to be damage control once the heavier barbell and the heavier weights come out, but I think he can apply some pressure on day number 1. And then you look at the guy that actually beat BKG at the Games and semifinals last year. That's Lazar Jukic. He could be the guy to inherit the European crown. He was hampered by injuries in the offseason, didn't quite have the Rogue Invitational experience that he wanted, but similar to Jona, he is great at some of the things on day 1, whether it's the skill upper body pulling on the rings that we're going to see, the machine work. If he can win and beat BKG and how well he manages the 2-part run snatch event on day 2, this is an opportunity for him to kind of solidify himself as potentially the heir apparent in Europe.
You talked about at the top how we might see some new faces here, changing the guard, like I said. Let's go to those breakout contenders. And there's a guy who showed up in the Open, in Victor Hoffer, who you look at him, you go, okay, well, the Open's great, but can you continue that success? And he has so far.
Yeah, he continued it in quarterfinals, finishing top 3 in Europe in a very, very talented and high-performing European field as far as quarterfinals are concerned globally. But he's only 20 years old, so he's still relatively new to the sport and high-level competition. Really spent the last year trying to get in-person competition experience. He was tremendous at top 10 globally in 23.1 and 23.3, and he's had 13 years of high-level gymnastics from a previous life under his belt. Now, he's going to smack test 2 and 6 with all the gymnastics work on the rings as well as the handstand and pirouette work. But really for him, it comes down to how well does he do damage control on the run heavy snatch, something that he's admitted isn't his strong suit. If he can do that, I think he'll be all right.
Another guy I think we need to talk about is someone who has done very well anytime you roll a heavy barbell out there. That he's super strong, but that's Bronislaw Lenkowicz, because it looks like he might be rounding out his game a little bit.
Yeah, kind of a flip-flop of Victor Hoffer, where he's a little bit more proficient with the barbell. But really, we get to look this year for Big Bron as his first full year going all in on CrossFit. And those are words that are coming out of his mouth since he decided to switch coaches, start working with Justin Kotler and Underdog Athletics. And that was one of the things that Justin said. We finally feel like he is fully in as far as being a high-level competitive CrossFitter. You look at some of the things that has already yielded strong finishes in the quarterfinals, both globally and in Europe. He missed semifinals last year. It wasn't like he was hurt. He missed qualification. If he comes out of event one relatively unscathed with the longer endurance work on the machines, look out for Big Bron, particularly in that run snatch event, because that is right up his wheelhouse.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch that Europe semifinal, 11 men and 11 women and 10 teams going to the CrossFit Games. We will continue to break down all the semifinal action and get you ready for live competition on our podcast. You're going to want to check that out. You can follow us on Instagram, and if you see fit, you can also support us on Patreon. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. For Tommy Marquez, I'm Sean Woodland. We'll talk to you next time.